You're listening to Diasporic Music on Black Power 96 with Melinda Francis, Norman Richmond, Lisa Watson on the buttons, and we just played Aminata Museka, a.k.a. Abby Lincoln, and Max Roach and Archie Shep. They were doing music. We are commemorating Black August, and Black August we are in the second week of Black August, and Black August was started in the prison system in California. And in 1979, a young man by the name of Katari Golden, who was born in Louisiana, was assassinated in San Quentin, and the authorities allowed him to bleed to death. And as a result of that, the prisoners in California began Black August, and today Black August is commemorated North America. I know in Cuba, South Africa, and I believe it's beginning. They're beginning to commemorate it in Kenya as well. And joining us on the line from Kingston, Jamaica, is Rupert Lewis, one of the foremost experts on Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He did a great book on Walter Rodney, and he has a brand new book out on Walter Rodney. And Melinda is going to interview Rupert Lewis. And how are you doing, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
So Rupert, we haven't.
Go ahead, Melinda.
You want to say something? Okay, yeah.
No, go ahead.
So Rupert, we haven't had you on the show for a bit. I think the last time it was in February. So let's start off. Like, what are the dates throughout August that pertains to the Caribbean in Black August?
Well, first of all, the August the 1st, we saw in the parish of St. Anne, Garvey's birth, a ceremony that took place on the eve of the anniversary of emancipation, which is celebrated in the English-speaking Caribbean on August 1st. We had apologies from the descendants of slave owners in Jamaica. Among them were James Harker of the Guardian newspaper in the UK, Kate Thomas and A.D. Walker, two New Zealand sisters whose ancestors from the clan Malcolm of Argyle owned plantations in the western part of Jamaica. And they were present here among those making apologies. We also had Laura Trevelyan, British journalist, formerly of the BBC, who represents heirs of slavery. So that was a highlight. The significance of the apology is that this is in keeping with the 10-point Caribbean Community Reparation Plan. But the Professor Vereen Shepherd, who has been one of the leaders of the reparation movement in the Caribbean, stressed the importance of them collectively in Britain putting pressure on the British government to come to terms with the debt that they owe the English-speaking Caribbean. Because it was only in 2015, I think, that the British government finished paying off the debt that they raised to pay the planters compensation for the loss of African people who were enslaved. So this is an important moment in the reparation struggle. I serve on the National Council on Reparation in Jamaica, and the lawyers on that particular body have prepared a petition to the Privy Council. And I mention the Privy Council because the Privy Council is from 1834. It's a colonial institution for us, but it continues in the Constitution because Jamaica is in transition to becoming a republic. So this petition is to King Charles III. And at present, that petition is going to be sent to the Jamaican cabinet with a view that the Jamaican government will take this petition up with the British government. So that's where we are at, and that's why the apologies were significant, because the apologies are not an end in themselves. The apologies given are means to an end, which is apologies from the British government itself and reparative justice payments, which payments have been calculated by a group of economists, and not only payments in relationship to the Anglophone Caribbean, but payments with respect to slavery throughout the Americas, Latin America, the United States, the Caribbean. That has been documented. So we started out Black August with that important development in the road towards reparative justice. Let me mention the Republic. Jamaica, for reasons having to do with the way our political system and the political parties have had differences. Jamaica still has King Charles as its head of state and a governor general that represents the king. The government and the opposition are in agreement on a transition to a republic, but the governing party is holding on to the idea of a Privy Council, and the opposition is holding. There is a Caribbean Court of Justice, which Jamaica has contributed financially, and which many people regard should be our apex court. So that the question of a republic that still relies on the British Privy Council indicates the dilemma that is faced by in Jamaican politics, which dilemma is based on the current government really holding on to the colonial apex court, which is the Privy Council. Let me turn to the Olympics, and I want to highlight the fact that Haiti sent 7 athletes to Paris who competed in track, gymnastics, judo, boxing, and swimming. They won no medals, but for me, it was an important statement by the Haitian people because of the budget of $450,000 US. The government funded, I think, 76,000, and the rest of the money was raised by Haitians living abroad. It's a statement of their determination to maintain their place as historically a nation state, that they have sovereignty, and I think for me it made an important statement that in Black August we should affirm. Of course, the islands of, very small islands of St. Lucia, Julian Alfred won the 100 meters and got gold. And Dominica, which is just over 76,000, uh, Thea Lafond won the triple jump. And throughout the Caribbean, Cuba did well in wrestling, weightlifting, uh, Guadeloupe, Martinique got medals. Uh, Jamaica had many disappointments because some of our top female athletes, in particular, um, Shelly Ann Price and Sharika Jackson, were injured. And before that, Elaine Thompson, who has the Olympic record in the 100, she was also injured. But the good side of this is that in the men's discus, there's a young man who set an Olympic record and got Jamaica's only goal. And the team that was sent was a young team of many junior athletes. Moreover, there was some return in the 100 meters men where we secured a silver. So all in all, from looking at the Caribbean area as a whole, it was a good Olympics, notwithstanding the challenges that took place. Because challenges exist, and just as the United States looks at the Olympics in the same way that China, who also performed well, looked at the Olympics as part of their national sense of self. Same applies to small island states in the Caribbean. These small island states were whipped by Hurricane Beryl in July. Hurricane Beryl swept through the Caribbean between July 1st to July 5th, dealing significant damage to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Jamaica. Parts of southwest Jamaica, particularly in the parishes of St. Elizabeth, are still recovering from the from Beryl. A lot of people haven't gotten back electricity. Water supply has been affected. So it has been an extremely difficult period. The fact that the hurricane usually season lasts from June to November. And in this context, the hurricane started. We have never had such strong hurricanes in the early part of the season, July, just a month into the season. So global warming and the toll it takes on people's lives, on economic and social existence. We are still in the middle of the hurricane season, so we're hoping that the season will not be as adverse. United States felt it, Florida, Texas, other places on the eastern seaboard. So global warming remains a critical issue. And in the context of the U.S. elections, which dominates the entire political thinking of people throughout the world, because it's a momentous choice that is being made. We know that the Trump campaign is for big oil and couldn't care less about environmental issues, global warming. They just want to go about making as much money as possible and getting the support, political support, financial support from big oil without paying any attention to the damage that will be wrought on so many countries in the region that are affected by the global warming. The Trump Harris uh, Harris's candidacy as naturally um, there's a lot of interest in that because of Harris's father, who is well known in Jamaica. Although Kamala Harris is estranged from her father, was closer to her mother because of the divorce. Harris is very well known. Um, I went to school in the lower forms in Portland, Pittsfield High School, when he was in the upper forms. He used to return to Kingston, Jamaica every summer from Stanford University to give seminars. He is a Marxist economist. He was responsible for writing Jamaica's industrial plan in the 1990s during the term of office of Prime Minister P.J. Patterson. So there is an affinity with Kamala Harris and support because the opposition party particularly has strong links with the Black Caucus in the Democratic Party. So bearing in mind that the outcome of the U.S. election has great significance for global politics, period. I personally am very concerned about the genocide that has been televised. We have never had a genocide televised like this. What's happening in Gaza. And the pressure has to be brought on the Harris ticket to take a stronger position for peace and for the settlement. But when the U.S. government under President Biden gives over $3 billion to support the military effort, at the same time that they're calling for some kind of ceasefire, but very little pressure is going on that ceasefire aspect of it. And we're very concerned about how the leadership of the United States can fail to take action to compel Netanyahu to stop that war and that massacre of people. I respect Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African government for the actions that they took in the international court to call out Israel. But that's the concern I have with the Kamala Harris ticket. It is true that she has come out calling for a reduction in civilian casualties, but I don't think that is a strong enough call with respect to what's happening with Syria. Because when these things take place in Gaza, they can be repeated where other oppressed populations exist. The elimination of subject peoples because of imperial diktats. Let me turn to the Garvey's 137th, the anniversary of his birth, which is on next Saturday, the 17th of August. 137 years. One of the activities that's taking place in Kingston is that the Kingston and St. Andrew Metropolitan Council is having its council chamber named in honor of Marcus Garvey. And I will be giving the justification for that uh, renaming at a meeting of the council. Uh, Garvey is known in Harlem, but he did a lot of work in Kingston during the decade of his 40s. When he returned to Jamaica in 1927, he was 40 years old. Uh, when he left Jamaica, he was in his late 40s in 1935. He was 48. In that 40 to 48 years, he did a range of activities that had an impact on Kingston. He launched Jamaica's first political party with a very progressive platform. He contested an election, which he lost to the Legislative Council, but he won an election to the Kingston and St. Andrew Council, and he served in a district in Kingston as the councillor from 1930 to 1935 when he left Jamaica for the final time. He developed an arts and cultural center called Edelweiss Park on Slipe Road in Kingston, which was a mini stadium that provided sports activity and cultural activity and public entertainment. There's a choir of about over 100 people. There were shows that were put on. There was boxing, a range of activities, because Garvey was always big on cultural activity. And that was an investment that he did, paying people who worked in that cultural organization. He published two newspapers in Kingston, the Black Man newspaper between 1929 1931, and the New Jamaican between 1932 to 1933. He also held two international conventions of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League in Kingston in 1929 and 1934. 1934 being the centenary of the abolition of emancipation. So that Kingston, for him, became a location, an international center for Pan-African mobilization. It was extremely difficult to undertake that task in a British colony. He was imprisoned for his criticism of the judiciary in Jamaica between September and December 1929. He was faced with other charges having to do with sedition because of his outspokenness. Kingston was extremely difficult in a colonial period. Moreover, this was the period of the Depression, world economic depression, and that took its toll on the economic activities of the movement, which depended on people being able to finance social and political activities. At that time, people were returning from the Depression in the United States and Cuba back to Jamaica. Now, we mentioned that council chamber, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Council. The idea here is to give the councillors a broader sense of their role in the 21st century. That they need to be thinking on all of these issues with respect to black people, with respect to the state of the world, with respect to issues of corruption in government, because that's one of the things that Garvey campaigned on and exposed within the municipality that he functioned in. So the idea is not simply to say what the history was, but to use the history as a means of encouraging the current group of political leaders within the Kingston municipality and in other municipalities to really look at the history that has informed political representation. Because political representation did not come easily, as it has not come easily, whether it's the United States, Brazil. But how our representatives represent their constituents. What is the maximum that they can do given the set of circumstances that they face? How can the people be more involved in municipal governance at the local level? Those are basic questions which I hope to stimulate.
And you're listening to...
Yes, those are the main...
Did I cut you off, sir?
No, those are the main points that I wanted to raise. It has to do with the way in which we are interconnected globally, because the power that we face, whether it is in Toronto, parts of the United States, Britain, that has experienced racist riots in the past week. The racial question is a primary one. The class question is also there. The gender question is also there. All of these issues are being contested in the U.S. election. Every aspect of political life. So progressives have a responsibility to be clear on where they stand and to pull the candidates in a progressive direction.
So, Rupert, we only have 3 minutes left. I wanted you to talk about the new book of Walter Anthony Rodney, your new book.
Yes, well, this is a new book in the series Caribbean Biographies, which is published by the University of West Indies Press. And it's a short book of only about 80-odd pages, 70-odd pages, and it's meant for undergraduates. And it will be taught in all the foundation courses on the campuses in Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, Grenada, for all students during UWI degrees. So I'm very pleased that at least students, undergraduates, will be exposed to the thinking of Walter Rodney. Because what I've done in this particular text is to give an exposition of Walter's ideas on Africa, his thinking in how Europe developed Africa, his thinking in groundings with my brothers in Jamaica, the relationship between that and his development of development studies in Dar es Salaam and the struggle for decolonization in Guyana. So it's a link between the Walter's work in these locations, Guyana, Dar es Salaam, and Jamaica. His writings in that period and exposition, so young people born in this century can take a look back on a rich intellectual, cultural, and political heritage.
And this is my last question, Rupert. I hate to cut you off, but Your book, Walter Rodney's Intellectual and Political Thought, which was published by Wayne State University Press. I'm looking at on Amazon, and they are selling it a paperback edition for $194.27. Is there any way the people? Is there any way people can, get that book republished and for a cheaper price? Is there anything that we, the public, can do?
Well, you can write to Wayne State University Press and to the UWI Press, and both are online. I would really appreciate that to request the republication of that book, because that's the only way to get down the prices. The question of supply and demand, and Amazon being imperialistic puts up the price way beyond what was intended. So just an email to Wayne State, but I would emphasize more the Press UWI. That would help to get the press thinking of a reprint of that book.
Because a lot of people I know, and especially some friends of mine in Los Angeles, they're almost crying. I think they might have found a copy in the some of the libraries have it in California, but these people want their own copy so they can hug and kiss and write on it,
Well, when you write the Press UWI, please mention the demand, and I'm going to let you have the person who you should write at UWI. I'm going to give you that email address. It's Christine.Randall at uwimona.edu.jm. I can send you that on their email for those of you who haven't
please.
That.
Please, and we can. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. So if you write her an email, I'm quite sure she will respond. But there has to be a demand that's expressed for the press to undertake a reprint.
I think in this time in history, a reprint, because Walters has quite a few books have been recently published, and
yes,
I think there's a demand for Walter Rodney, don't you think?
No, there's definitely a demand, and I know that there'll be a conference on Walter Rodney at Brown University in October of this year, in which Dr. Patricia Rodney is involved, in which there'll be a film, the Rodney documentary, and that indicates and confirms what you have said about the interest in Walter. So I will send you this email, and you can write Ms. Randall with respect to getting a republication.
And thank you, sir. I think we have run out of time. We would definitely stay in contact with you. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Melinda?
No, we'll have you on again, Rupert. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, thanks for your questions. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Professor Dr. Rupert Lewis, Rupert Charles Lewis, my brother.
Thank you, Norman.
All right, and we are getting ready to listen to the Jazz Zone, and stay tuned for the Home Report.